I actually just thought of something that my favorite school teacher used to call it. He used to call it the lawn chair test. And unfortunately, he's passed away. Otherwise, I would get the story from him again. And he related it to schoolwork, but he said, if something in your life collapses, like the second you put pressure on it, it wasn't really built to support you. Basically, he was mainly talking about friendships and relationships and stuff in school as you're growing up, like a commitment, an obligation. If it folds every time it gets real, it's not stable. And instead of asking yourself, how do I hold it together? You should ask, why am I sitting in something that can't hold me? So why am I staying in a relationship that I know is not going to work? And it really has to do with anything in your life.
Welcome to I Am Her. We're all about glitter, grit, and grace. This is The Shift, where spiritual meets spicy, F-bombs meet forgiveness, and shadow work occasionally throws glitter.
Welcome, everyone, to I Am Her, Season 2, Episode number 9. What is that in Spanish? Nueve. Yeah, thank you. I am Emmy.
And I'm Thylene, and I'll be here all night.
I'll be here all night and all week and however long. Forever. I'll just
infinity.
Be here.
To infinity and beyond. And we're special.
Yeah. Okay. How have you been the last few days?
I started school. And now I'm questioning life choices because I started criminal justice, and the first 3, like within the first module, the first 3, it feels like hours, but it's like little clicker thingies through the module, are about plagiarism and citating. And apparently citation is like college language that I haven't learned yet. I'm struggling with the first step. I'm like, can you just give me an assignment?
Yeah. That's what I don't miss about school, because you have to go through so much shit to get to the meat of it all. It's like when you look a recipe up online and you just want the recipe, but you got to go through 5 fucking hours of all these scrolls of everybody's experience with all the ingredients and all the shit. So you just click the jump to recipe. Just get to the point of the class. Yeah. What am I here for?
Literally. Yeah. But I am doing like an on-demand class, which means literally I just have access to the class for the year. So there's no due dates. It's just like at my own pace, 100%. And that one's sociology. But my criminal justice class has due dates. I'm like trying to figure out what studying and momming and working full time and podcasting and trying to get my affirmation anchors together and eat right and jump on the trampoline for workout. And
I do know what you mean. I'm not even going to school, but there's a lot that you just got to figure out, because I know we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of trying to figure out I've got books I'm writing. I've got websites to build. I've got retreats to plan for. I've got my 9-to-5 job. I've got a granddaughter. I've got a husband. I've got a house to keep up on. And it's, if I just had 3 more hours.
I think that I need like an extra day between the day. Like fabulous. If we could just let's just name a day. Like, so it'd be Friday, Saturday, name a day, Sunday. We need 8 days.
I mean, there's a song. I think the Beatles sang it, maybe 8 days a week. Is that the Beatles? I don't know who sang it, but it's there. And it should be
I don't know,
thing.
But don't plagiarize. We need to citate the correct.
Is that like the APA Chicago style or whatever? No, that's pizza, Chicago style.
Beatles, pizza, I don't know.
Now that we derailed the train, let's pivot back
Yes.
to what we're really here for. And I think that was actually a pretty good segue, don't you think?
Before we got sidetracked.
Yeah. Before we got sidetracked about what we're going to talk about, the pulse of the episode.
See, so I feel like what we need to talk about is you don't need more time. You just need clarity and a decision. I feel like I've felt this a few times in my life or experienced it. I'm very wise when it comes to this conversation we're about to have.
I think everybody says they need more time, but realistically, if I said I need 3 more hours, but I'd probably just fill it with more stuff that I actually didn't want to do in the first place, or...
Right? So this makes me think of, if someone tells me I have 2 weeks to do X, it'll take me 2 weeks. But if they say 2 days, I'm going to push and get it done in 2 days. So I feel like whenever you have a timeline, not everybody's like that though, right? There is very atypical, structured people, more structured than my Gemini mind, that can or would get something done whether they have a timeline or not, because that's just what they do. I, however, am not that person.
That's me, though. I get stuff done way before it needs to be done. I think part of that was because when I was growing up, my mom, whenever something was due, she always made sure that it was done 3 days before. That's just how I was raised. And that's also the Virgo in me, to just get it done.
It's a learned behavior for me. So I think everyone can master it if they put enough effort into it and they have a big enough why. And also, I think that if that can change per episode of your life. What episode are we in? What does it entail? Do I want this said end result? So I think it can change based on motivations, people involved, energy, right? Everything's a choice. So I definitely was not like that throughout my life. There was a time where I was late a lot. And I can remember my older sister being like, dude, you're disrespecting people's time. And I was like, I don't get it. Other people have time, like they're not on my timeline. That's stupid. It definitely took me quite a while, even after I had my son. Like it took me a while to get organized enough and figure things out to where I had a good flow. But that, to me, I've gotten all of my degrees in hard knocks. Trust me, I'm going for my first degree, so I actually technically don't have any degrees yet. We're working on that. But
the life experience degrees, the list is long.
Yeah, and straight from the streets.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of wisdom. I was talking to my advisor today, and she's like asking me about passions, and because we're trying to find the right path. And I'm like, dude, I could not have done, which segues into my next point, is that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Even a few years ago, even 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, I would not have been ready for college. I just wouldn't have. I'm coming to school to be a lawyer. There is no other path for me currently, but you're exactly where you're meant to be. Just like you, Em, like you're going through some transitions. I think the new year opened a lot up for us, and we're going through a little bit bumpy, a little scary. There's a lot of fear involved. I don't think I've used my tools as much or as often as I'm using them right now. But that's what they're there for. That's why we do what we do, is so that when life comes back around and tries to smack you in the face, you have the tools and the capacity and the knowledge and the wisdom to apply to it. And it's just, it doesn't make it a ton easier, but it helps you through the process for sure.
That's when burnout comes into play, because burnout isn't always because you're doing too much, in my opinion. It's more because you're doing too much that doesn't actually matter to you. Like when your advisor was asking you, like, what are your passions? And you're like, no, I just want to do this. And I feel like if you were to take on 10 different things instead of just following the one path, your burnout would come so much quicker, because you're exerting so much time and energy doing things that don't matter to you. When we overcommit, we overextend, and then we act surprised when we feel like shit. This human pancake that keeps getting flip-flopped from one way to another. That's when the burnout hits. And I think clarity is what filters that stuff
intentional
out. Yeah.
But I think the clarity comes from intentional thought processes and paying attention to your intuition and your gut.
And without clarity, everything gets in. You've got stuff coming at you from a million different directions, and without the clarity and without those blinders on, so to speak, that you have to some degree, all the shit's going to get in.
Exactly.
And that's when you get burnt out.
For an example of what you're talking about, or in the same kind of category of that, is when she was talking to me, she was telling me about these classes, right? And she would say this class and this class, and I'd be like, okay. And then she started talking about criminal justice, telling me about the class and what's involved. And even now, I'm like tingly, right? I'm like, ooh, stop. That one, right? That's me listening to my excitement, my nervous system, my body telling me that's where you want to be. That is the one. And then she'd go through a couple more classes and then say another one. And I'd be like, I get excited when I hear about it. Listen to your body. Listen to the cues. Your whole body is one system working together. And we often, because it functions like that, we skip out on the little pieces of each section of our body and we overwrite it or autopilot, right? Pull off the rose-colored glasses and pay attention for a little bit, and you'll start noticing different things that happen that either irk you or make you really excited, or all the feelings that you ignore because you're so structured. And paying attention to all of those things, I think, will really help you and open up your mind, body, and soul to experiences and things that you wouldn't otherwise recognize or pay attention to if you're closed off in an autopilot. We talk about that a lot, right? Paying attention to your body and your intuition and signals and all of the things and how they all work. You're doing yourself, in my opinion, a huge disservice by not listening, by just walking through life and letting it happen to you. And I feel like we've all been there.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've recently realized is when you're making a decision, it shouldn't feel messy. It should feel clean. And I say clean just because it's the opposite of messy. I don't even know if that's the right word, but a clean decision should feel like it settled, like your nervous system is not activated in a negative way. It might be a little scary, but it's clear. You feel grounded as opposed to overthinking it, all this back and forth. Should I, shouldn't I? Trying to convince yourself, needing 12 people to agree with you before you do it. That, to me, is a very messy decision, and that's not one that you should make. And if you're that confused about it, you already know the answer, that you shouldn't be doing it. I actually just thought of something that my favorite high school teacher used to call it. He used to call it the lawn chair test. And unfortunately, he's passed away. Otherwise, I would get the story from him again. But he always said, and he related it to schoolwork, but he said, if something in your life collapses like the second you put pressure on it, it wasn't really built to support you. Basically, he was mainly talking about friendships and relationships and stuff in school as you're growing up, like a commitment and obligation. If it folds every time it gets real, it's not stable. And instead of asking yourself, how do I hold it together? You should ask, why am I sitting in something that can't hold me? So why am I staying in a relationship that I know is not going to work? And it really has to do with anything in your life. Major decisions like us now, I think it's a good analogy.
That is so profound. I feel like to have someone like that works with youth give that type of seed planted. That person really I feel like had a good grasp on life. Because that's what I try to do with my kids now, is plant little seeds of wisdom that I didn't start learning until I was in my 30s. But my kids, they get the healed version of me. They get the version of me that is going to be a safe space, that's going to be open, that they can talk to me about everything, that gives them, I'm not saying don't protect your kids, obviously. I am saying, however, that if we don't let them experience age-appropriate life, then we do take away a lot of the lessons. And then in like later in life, and I am speaking from my own experience, later in life, they kind of crash and burn a bit bigger when they're on their own because they didn't have guidance through the hard shit when it happened when they were younger. They were swaddled and we didn't let anything hit them. And now they're not even in our household and they don't have the tools or the capacity or identity or love for themselves enough to know, oh, I should ask my mom. Or that teacher was very profound. Like that's cool. I love hearing stuff like that.
Yeah, he had a major impact on me in my life as I was going through some pretty hard times in my school years. But what you just said takes me back to the talking about the clarity and stuff. I think we think that clarity comes from adding more structure into our family or putting more planning into different things. But like you're saying, unless we let our kids experience like the age appropriate life, essentially, they're not going to be able to find their own clarity because clarity comes from removing what doesn't belong, and they have to be able to find on their own what doesn't belong. It's like they need to realize what's not theirs to carry or what they don't want to take with them where they're going. Or when they're young, they might like something that they don't like when they're older. And then they gain that clarity to where they can say what we can say now is that version of me used to do that, but I don't do that anymore. So I agree with you that it's very important to let people experience things on their own. And that's why we always say we're not here to fix people. We're here to light the path. I think we said that on the last episode. We're here to just light the path so the people that come behind us can follow maybe our example, but we're not here to fix you.
Yeah. I know how hard it is to allow a child or someone super close to you, it doesn't have to be a kid, go through their own shit. Because I think a lot of us, especially women, we nurture, we protect. And it's in our DNA to extend that to the people that we feel so close to and that we love so much, that we want their future to be so bright and so happy. And we are like, hey, you can do that by doing this. And we try to control their narrative. I think with some of the challenges that my son went through, now being 16 and being on the other side of that, taught me 100% how to distribute age appropriate conversations, communication, and also let go enough to protect and guide and love, but allow experience. And through that experience, we should be doing this with ourselves too. Like, we should love ourselves just as much as we love our kids. And we should also allow ourselves to go through with grace the problems and challenges that we have, but also seek guidance. I went through a conversation today, actually, where we talked a lot about that, about how asking for help is not weakness. It's actually a strength. But until the last 5 years, I did not see it as a strength. I saw it as a 1000% weakness, because bootstrap up, go get her done. I don't care how it gets done, just get her done. You know what I mean? And now that we've done the work and we're on the other side of a lot of our journey, which is never over, we say that a lot too, we can now see and make connections in spaces that we've learned and gained and grown, where maybe we didn't like oxygen mask first, or we didn't see how to handle it maybe until it already hit us. But that's what community is so important for. I would argue it's like the most important. Doing it by yourself is not recommended. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10.
-10 out of 10. I also think that when you try to do stuff on your own, that's when you tend to fall into the trap of people pleasing, because you don't have that community to fall back on and to give you that support and be the guide to show you what worked for them and what didn't work for them. Just be an example, because a lot of burnout doesn't come from work. It comes from like emotional overcommitment. So saying yes to someone else because you don't want them to be uncomfortable, or avoiding conflict, or keeping the peace while you're literally screaming internally. So at some point you have to decide, is keeping everyone else comfortable worth losing yourself?
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot more when you're not around the right people, surrounding yourself with that influence. And when you do surround yourself in that community, I think that's when you learn that you can take a whole day off. You can take a nap, you can take a bath, you can journal, you can do whatever you do and still feel exhausted the next day. But it's because you're still returning to the same decisions you were making before. So without that clarity and without having a clear path and not getting stuck in this people pleasing and worrying about everybody else, rest isn't going to do shit for you.
I agree. I really want to focus on how, like, when you make a decision, like, I want to move the conversation to what happens after, because we talk a lot in this space about clarity, decision making, and tools. But I feel like it's important to also bring light to the other side of that, and how we think that things take forever. But if you think that it's going to take forever, then it will, right? That when you make a decision, Things can happen instantly. Example, school. I literally applied to my job, got the job, remembered they have a degree option, decided to go to school, and now I'm taking classes in a matter of 30 days. And now I have basically a 7-year plan.
That just goes to prove that I like to call those micro decisions, even though the decision that you've made is quite large for your life path, but you made it in small increments. Basically, you don't need to blow your whole life up overnight. It starts with what actually matters to me right now. What am I doing out of obligation? What can I stop doing to fit what I really want to do in? And that small decision for you to go back to school has now opened up a whole new life path. So even though it was a decision in the moment, which is why I call it like a micro decision, now your whole life is changed.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that you have to do that, right? I'm just saying what can happen if you choose to. The goal is to give you the micro and the macro, the little steps and the big steps, the good and the bad, the dark and the light. The only way you can figure things out for yourself is if you think through it and research, right? Like essentially, when we ask questions to ourselves, we're researching the feeling that we're having. When we ask questions to our friends, we're researching their knowledge so that we can take what resonates and leave what doesn't and make a decision and hopefully have clarity by the time we get there based on the research we've done with the pool of people that we have. And if the pool of people that you have are reminding you of the negatives, reminding you that you're a single mom, reminding you that you have a lot of bills, reminding you that maybe we should just wait, that could really take an effect on your life if you were to choose XYZ. There's always going to be a million reasons why not. And if you focus on those, you will give yourself excuse after excuse to continue down the why not path.
And that's when the decision fatigue comes in, is a term that I actually learned a few years back when I was just trying to do everything for everyone else and I couldn't make a solid decision for myself because I wasn't thinking of myself. All these things like that we get stuck on. What should I work on first? Should I even respond to this message? Do I do this or do I do that? Am I obligated to do this? Should I post on social media today? What do I post? Is it good enough? And your brain eventually gets so overloaded and you start to say, absolutely not. So without that clarity and without making those decisions, you're going to get stuck in this rut of all these maybes and I guess I shoulds. And then you're just leaking all this energy that could be focused on the things that truly matter.
Yeah. Decision fatigue. You just created like a new aha moment for me, I think, because although I've said it in many different ways about people, like I'm a recovering people pleaser and how I used to always be able to help other people, but when it came to helping myself, I never did it. But that makes perfect sense. Like decision fatigue, when it came to my turn, I was already so depleted. My cup was empty 5 challenges ago. And yet here I am just trying to keep my nose above water so that I don't drown. And now you're asking me what I want. It no longer matters at that point. So for you to say decision fatigue and in the context that you just used it in makes 100% sense to me until we started doing the work that we've been doing for the last like 3 or 4 years. Actually, it's been 4 years now for sure. I definitely feel like that is a new connection for me. Like, as far as defining it.
There was a time when, before I started really getting into my healing journey and my anxiety was pretty much at its highest peak, people couldn't even ask me a simple, where do you want to go for dinner? Because if I had to make that choice, I would rather not go. Just little things like that. They would have to give me, we can go here or here, when I had to choose between those two, because I couldn't make a decision because I was so focused on making decisions for everyone else that me making a decision completely fucking stressed me out, and I would rather just go to bed and not even eat the damn dinner.
I relate so hard because, and you've heard me talk about this on stage before, is that my friend asked me what my favorite color was, and I was like, literally deer in headlights. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to have one of those. Right? And there's always two people within me, obviously, because I'm a Gemini, but also I think everyone has some version of that. One of me is like filtering through, trying to figure out what my favorite color is. And the other of me is, I don't have a favorite color. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? There's two things going at the same time. And then I just remember it halting and being like, holy shit, forget that. I don't have a favorite color. There's what I'm supposed to say. And then there's what I don't know what I want to say. And in these instances, you're not stuck because you haven't decided. You're stuck because you don't know who you are yet.
And you don't want to say the wrong thing because you don't want to look like the fucking idiot if you say the wrong thing, even though that's not what the other person is thinking.
And you shouldn't even be thinking that, right? Like it's okay. I think being okay with not knowing who you are is admitting you have a problem. It's like the first step. Admit that. What I started doing, and this is how I learned who I am, is I started being like, oh, that's a great question. Like when I'm at work, I've been in sales my whole life. If I don't know the answer to a question, I don't tell them, I don't know. I say, that's a great question. I'm going to have to ask my manager. I'm going to ask someone who knows that information because I haven't come across that yet. So I'll get back to you. And then I set an expectation. Why the fuck can I not do that with myself? That's a great question. I need to get back to you on that. I really need to feel that one out. Being okay with not knowing is powerful. To be able to sit in that. It seems like I should know what my favorite color is, but I think it's changed because I haven't thought about it in a long time. I think I need a second.
Yeah, I'm getting better at being able to say, you know what, I'm gonna let this one sit. I had an example that just happened today, as a matter of fact. So I get so giddy and excited about doing stuff on the computer when I get new assignments of things to do on the computer. And I was sent an email with some adjustments to make on a website. And I sat with it for a minute, and in the past would automatically go to, okay, I'm going to get in front of the computer. I'm going to fix this right away. But as I'm reading it, I said, nope, I need time to think about this and figure out how to make it look as nice as possible. And so I texted back and I said, I'm just going to sit with this, and it's not going to be done right away. I will do it when I'm ready to do it, when I feel comfortable doing it. And that's just an example that kind of goes along the same thing, because in the past I would have just stressed out because I couldn't get it done right when I read the email. So I'm getting better at saying, I'm going to sit with this for a minute and let it, let me figure it out before I just do it wrong. You know, because then I'll even feel more like shit because I did it wrong.
And you do it twice when you do it that way. Yeah. You have to fix it.
Yeah.
I also feel like something to call out is like not focusing on the things that you can't control. Like, I feel like if you're delayed, it's because you haven't made a choice yet, and that's on you. And the path of all the problems and the things that you focus on, they're always going to be there. And those are things likely you can't control. What can you control? Yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, whether you give time and energy to whatever it is you're giving time and energy to. That is a choice that you have control over. Nobody can decide that for you. I used to think that someone could, and I allowed people to for a long time. When you stop living in that type of environment, that's when you take your power back. I think that time is a neutral space. Yes, we subscribe to the society that has hours and minutes and days and weeks and months and years, but the choice remains yours of one, how you see that time, and two, how you spend it. I want to say that decisions create timelines, but you also have to be very careful with creating timelines, because then you can get stuck on that path and not pay attention to what's happening around you. And that's where balance comes in, right? Things start changing when you decide who you want to be. And then when you start flowing in that direction and you stay open. What's the saying? When one door opens, when one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, and we
did windows.
Windows. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I don't give a fuck what the opening is that you go into, as long as you see an opening and you're open to it. And then again, choice comes in, right? See the opportunity and decide. But decisions, we've talked about this too. I call it decision paralysis. And I got this a lot after the challenging time that I had with my son, because I'm responsible for him. And if I make a decision and I say, yes, you can do this, he could end up into a really bad situation again. And it would be on me, because I said, yes, he could do whatever he was doing. And so for a while, I really struggled with decisions. Not so much decisions with myself anymore, because I was healing and growing, but decisions for the people that I'm responsible for, the lives that I'm expected to keep whole and healthy. So I've experienced this decision paralysis on many different levels, not just with myself. And it takes a lot of effort and communication and trust to get out of a place like that. I won't say it's easy. The tools that you use can be simple, but it is hard, or at least for me, it was really hard to trust that and open up again and allow the outside world into my home again, like people, things, places, events. It was tough for me.
When I was along my healing journey too, there came a level of trust that I had to regain with some people, because I had been through so much shit that I really had to focus on what was going to bring peace into my life and not risk the same situations coming up. And because I already knew that what I was going through was affecting so many other aspects of my life, like the money block that I had, when I literally could not tell anybody. I would offer to help them with certain things and they'd say, how much do you charge? I don't fucking know. Just tell me how much you're going to pay me, because I couldn't make that decision. And so there was so much trust. I had to build trust within myself too, because I had to know that I was making the right decisions that were going to align with the healing path that I was on, and that was going to align with the trajectory that I was taking my life. And that's why my circle is so much smaller now, just because it's not that I still have trust issues. I do, in a sense that I don't want to fall back into old habits to where I just let anybody in, because then I get back to not trusting myself again. And so when I first started on this path, I was taking like little bites. And so I was just telling myself, okay, I'm just taking a break from these people. But I knew they were not going to come back into my life. but I had to tell myself that I was just taking a break from them because it was too much for me to say, I can't have you here.
So that's where you and I differ. But that's the beauty of it, is that I'm telling you an option and you're telling me an option, and everyone gets to listen and say, I resonate more with dipping my toe in. And some people are going to be like, man, I really just resonate with stripping down and taking the leap. So I think that I do get what you're saying. I do think that it was a way that leads into my next thing, is it was your way of tricking your mind into getting to where you want to be, which is what I want to talk about next as we close out, is that act like her now, talk like her now, move like her now, do little things, buy little things that she would buy. Like, the more you move your energy in the direction of who you want to be, the quicker you align with that timeline. And for you, that was your version or your way of doing it, was tricking yourself. Now, I'd like to do some research, like more research in this, because I know that there are studies done in this space. But also there's tapping, right? Like, you've heard of tapping as like an anxiety, or...
I used to do it when I was doing EMDR with a therapist of mine years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So tapping, I watched a video recently about someone who said that and I could be wrong. Please don't do this based on what I say. Go look up a video about tapping. Say, for me, it'd be like, I want a Range Rover, and you're tapping. And then you say, my name is Thylene, or I live in Washington. Say something true on this side and something that is not yet true. Your mind doesn't know the difference. And that allows you to align faster. Get to said goal faster. Things start aligning, people come into your life, energy shifts, like opportunities show up out of nowhere, right? So I would encourage just looking up different ways of meditation, of ways to align. There's just hundreds and hundreds of videos on YouTube. We're not the only ones on YouTube, if you can believe it or not. There's a few other people on YouTube, although you should always come here first. So I guess that, like, when we say tricking your mind, I mean, there's actual people use it all the time. There is a form of writing that I've done where you write 3 things that are true and 1 thing that is not. And because you did 3 things that are true, your mind doesn't know that 4th thing isn't true. And you trick your mind into thinking that it is, and it becomes true a lot faster. So I'm just trying to think of ways that we can guide people into trying different modalities. If you aren't doing anything for your mental health, start with 1 thing. Maybe tapping is a little not your thing. That's fine. Journal. If neither of those things are your thing, there's a gazillion things. And thanks to algorithms, once you open one, it will start suggesting a billion more. Lucky you.
That is true. I think it's also important you need to just stop saying yes to all the things that don't align, because no matter what you do, whether it's tapping or anything to help you overcome whatever it is, there's no system in the world that's going to help you get your life organized that's full of shit that you actually don't want to be doing, or relationships that you don't want to be in. I just think it's important to, no matter what system you choose or what modality you want to try, you have to learn to stop saying yes to things that don't align with where you want your life to be going.
Yeah. Also, I think a big part of all of this is getting yourself to the point where you believe. We believe all the negativity so easily. And yet, when we see positive modalities, when we see all of these things that are coming out and coming our way, we're like, nah. Like, really think about that. Where is the logic in that? And you're like, that tracks. That makes sense. That probably did happen. Like, we just believe negativity so easily. Allow yourself to believe I would argue, believe in the positivity more. Who cares if it's true or not? Because even if you get 1% of that positivity, it's better than the 0% you had before. I'm very passionate. I think that we've talked about this to ad nauseum. We do talk about some of these things quite a bit, but I feel like it's important to revisit and then add a little bit, revisit, because we need that consistency in our brains to remind us, oh yeah, we can believe that. And so I think at this point we can do, unless you have anything else to add, we can do vibe check.
No, I think that was a good way to end. I
do what I can.
When you say we talk about stuff ad nauseum, I think we talk about the things that need to be talked about, because you and I both know that we can be told something 10,000 fucking times, and it's the one time that we hear it that something actually sinks in. We don't do these things on repeat because we're just cycling back through the topics. These are things that are on our minds, and we also know that if we are thinking it, somebody out there is thinking it also.
Collectively, that's where the energy is. I agree.
Yeah.
So this is all of that to say that you don't need another sign. You don't need to manifest like the $100. Take the 5. Take the win, and just know that you're headed on your way, and be open to everything that comes to you. Start making decisions, smaller ones if you need to, like Emmy, your little micro decisions, or strip off and jump in the water and give it a shot. But no matter what you choose, keep yourself open to opportunities that are outside of the one that you're making, and know that you deserve it and you're worth it, and what is meant for you will come. And just know that you're her. And that energy, saying that you are her, believing that you are her, is the moment that you become her. Then you have to wake up every morning. I invite you to wake up every morning and remind yourself that you are her, because things are going to come at you, and challenges and good days, bad days, tech problems. And you get to, in each moment, choose to be her. And that is probably her vibe check, to be honest. Her vibe check is strip down and jump in the water. That is the best advice I can give you, with a little bit of M's macro. If you put the two of us together, you are well on your way.
You're headed in the right direction. Make sure you got your glitter in your pocket so you can throw it on the shit along the way. Yep.
We have lights out for you. We put the lights out.
We did.
So your path is lit.
We put the lights out. We put the breadcrumbs out like Hansel and Gretel. We're not going to lead you to a bad place, though. It's going to end up in a good place. Okay. So my vibe check, I think, is just to remind people that burnout isn't always about doing too much. It's about doing the shit that's not aligned. You don't necessarily need more time. You just need clearer decisions. And when you think you need a break, I think it's more like you just need to stop volunteering for things that you didn't even want to do. Because when you get in the habit of choosing the things that you want to do, which I know, lifes, and sometimes things come up and we do things we don't really love to do that are required on the daily. But for the most part, generally speaking, you won't feel like you need a break from it, because it's not going to feel tedious and it's not going to feel exhausting. So that's my little nugget.
Love it. My final thing to say is to remember that life isn't waiting on time. It's waiting on decision. It's one decision away and only you can make it. You're welcome. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. And we appreciate you spreading the word. So share with your friends. Share with anybody you think might gain something or not. If they just need to add another podcast to their list on Spotify, share it.
And we have a couple guests. I have a couple guests lined up that should be coming. So stay tuned for that too.
All right. So you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and on your favorite podcast platform. So until next time, take what resonates and leave the rest. And remember, somewhere, a lion in a Hawaiian shirt is cheering you on. Bye, everybody.